Okay, I'm back. I was mentioning as the Star Tower, the cell tower here in Star is, something is wrong. In the last several days, I've been getting text messages way later than when people are sending them out. Jennifer's asked me if I could babysit last week, and it didn't come until like 4 days later. And she's probably wondering what was taking me so long to respond. But anyhow, I hope we're live, and I hope we stay connected and don't get booted off. I'm taking, these are the two pieces that have the sea foam on the back. So since we got, who knows how much we heard in the last video of what we were die cutting, I will recap all of the pieces that we need. So we just are cutting. So I'm cutting from the two gold pieces now that have sea foam on the back. And I'm layering two together to cut them out. Okay. I'm just going to tag a few of you people that I know were watching. And that one. So I'm just doing, like I say, folks, I'm going to get back to stamping here in just a second. And I know Kat was watching. Okay. Now how do I get back to my video? Okay, hopefully. So I think I might have tagged a few people. I have no idea if that worked or not. But let me show you the pieces I have. So we're just kind of gathering these up. Okay. Now I do want a green one. So I'm going to turn this over. And I'm going to get, I need this side here so I can get a full green. Okay, like that. So that's a single layer. Again, I am going to recap how many we need. But yeah, I've been having horrible, like 1 bar service for the past month. It's driving me crazy. Okay, so there's a green that's facing front. And now we have a partial gold that we need. Okay, and so it's going to go this direction. Okay, so I'm going to do as much of this as it looks like I can almost get the whole thing, but I can't. But I definitely want to get one good side. We're going to trim this side off. It's that one right there. Okay. All right. Well, I hope some people come back. If not, I'm going to keep going so that the video is finished and that you'll have it for future reference. Okay, here's my last one. And I think, let's count them up. I think I have all the pieces that I need. Okay, so, and I'm just going to kind of plug these in where they are. So I have that one there and that one, right? And I have this one goes right there. It looks like I'm going to need one more. That there. This one goes here. And there. There. And we have a full one under there. There's a gold one there. Look, I had something in on my plate. And then we have a partial one there. Okay. So now that we have totally screwed everything up, let's just kind of lay these out so you can see exactly what you need. Okay, so these are the pieces, and you may want to take a screenshot so that you can see all these, but just use those pieces of paper to cut as many half circles out as you can. If you don't have this stamp set or die set, just cut out some circles and chop them in half. That would be equally as cool. So in total, you're going to need 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay. And a couple of them will be partials because you're using the scraps of the paper. So let me kind of bring this piece of paper in. You can see that there's a partial. That is intended. Okay. So let's lay these out on our card base here. And to do this, I'm just going to kind of shuffle these off to the side and bring in my original. Okay, bring in my original and we're going to glue these on. And remember, we're not going to use glue, we're going to use a tape runner of some sort, whether you stamp and seal or whatever it's going to be. But I'm going to start, this is a gold one, okay? And the back is soft sea foam. And I'm going to just kind of tuck that right up at the top here, okay? And the next one I'm going to do, it's under our design here, okay? But it is a soft sea foam, okay? It's the soft sea foam and the back is gold. So again, tape runner. And now I'm going to just match these up like so, okay? And let's see, this is my partial sea foam that has the edge cut off. Whoops, that's backwards. That's not what I want. Okay, hold on. This is my blue, and I got adhesive on that. This one, I was using the wrong one, okay? This one is gonna be down here, actually. So we're gonna, actually, I have 3 full ones, and I don't need 3 full. So we can go there and then chop that off, okay? So let's glue that one on. And the reason I stopped is because I could see that I wanted the design going in the right direction. Okay, this one's gonna go up a little higher than my other one. Okay, so it'll leave us a little bit of negative space there, but that's a good thing. Okay, my next piece going on, we're gonna do a circle right below this one. And this is soft sea foam, and the back is pool party. Make sure you have the dots going the right direction. Okay, and this is just gonna kind of be in line with it. Okay, make it straight. So I see a few people have popped back on. Thank you. I was mentioning that the cell tower here in Star has not been well. It's been, something's going on, and those of us who have Verizon have been like struggling and having like the worst luck in the last little bit here. I'm not receiving things. I was in Nampa the other day and I got a whole slug of text messages and I'm like, holy cow. It's like they all just kind of came in because I finally had cell service. Okay, so that was a pool party partial. Okay, so you can see how perfect we used to the very, very end of our scraps and how well that just kind of popped right in there. Looks good on the side. We'll trim that one in a minute. Now this is another pool party right next to it. You can mix these up however you would like. They do not need to be the same as mine by any means. Okay, so there is that. And that was another pool party. And on top of this, I'm going to do the soft sea foam foil. Hi, Sherry. So happy you're here. That one's gonna fill in there. Now we're gonna do some partials over here on this side. We're gonna do a partial gold. Okay, so the back of this is sea foam. Okay, see this little mar in the foil there? That's because I had on my plate these leftover goodies from another, I know better, but oh well, I was working in a hurry. Okay, so I'm gonna tuck that one there on this side, and we're gonna cut more of that off. Make sure it's straight. And then this one here, this last partial, is gonna come over here to the side as well. Okay. And that's gonna go right like that, okay? Now, bring in your trimmer and we'll just trim this side, or you could use a pair of scissors. So what I think I'll do is I'm going to use just some long bladed scissors. Whenever I have to do a straight cut, I like to use a long bladed scissor. And I'm just kind of putting that blade right on the edge of my paper, okay? Sometimes when I do a trim like that in the paper trimmer, it will curl the paper and not cut, or it'll tear it. So it's like, Make sure. Okay, so there is my cool background using that paper and that basin bowl type vase die as a pattern, okay? So let's do just a little bit more laying out. Let's set the stage, and then we will stamp away and have some fun. Okay, so the next pieces that you're going to need are the banner die and the square die. These are both from the Stitched Shapes dies. No, I said that wrong. Stylish. Originally, they were Stitched Shapes. The redo is called Stylish, okay? So these are going to layer in here together, and I'm trying to see what I did. Trying to remember. Okay, so here's our original, and it looks like, okay, so it looks like these are together with dimensionals, okay? So let's start there, and then we'll layer in our ribbon. Okay, so 2 right in the middle of that square, and we will attach that. Hello, Marcia. I'm glad you found me again. Stupid internet just cut out. And it says, move to a better place in the house. It's like, this is the best place. There's no other better place. I mean, I come out here to the kitchen because it's really bad back in my stamp room, but holy cow. Yeah, so we've had some bad service lately. All right, so that's going to come in here. But before we layer that down, we're going to do an S fold of our ribbon. So that S fold is just take a piece, okay, and make it about 4 inches, okay, and fold it back. Or it could be a Zorro fold, you know, that's kind of what we're doing, a Z fold, okay? And this is going to layer in back of our papers here, okay? So that's going to set back there. So we need to stick that down. So I like to use, I'm just kind of holding my Zorro fold. That's what I'm going to call the ribbon. It's the Zorro fold. Okay, so I'm just kind of layering down some of this Stampin' Snail that I can stick this all down. Okay, so I'm going to start, you know, at top of that, and then come back. Okay, and you're going to want to get fairly close to the edge of the paper here. Okay, so that's going to flatten out. And then this one's going to come back and layer on top of that. And you might want to overlap these just a little bit. Okay. And then you can trim this one off. And I'll trim this end while I'm here as well. Give it a nice angular cut. Okay, that's extra. You know, you could fold that under a little something if you want, or you can round file it. All right, now this is going to glue on top of this. Okay, so let me get that little excess out. So that's going to glue on top. And I just realized mine might be a little bit high. It is. It's all just a little too high. So good thing we can just kind of move this down. I'm just going to come down a little bit. Ta-da. And bring this down again. Okay. That's better. And then this is going to glue on top. Okay. So, yeah, I felt like it was just going to be a little too high. Now, let's glue this down. And this is going to glue with glue. Glue with glue. That's brilliant. So give yourself ample on there because you're going to be sticking to ribbon. And I'm going to give myself some dimensionals in here as well. So I'm going to do one there. I probably should have put my dimensionals on first, but that's okay. Okay, there. And we'll do the same thing over here. This is a puffy card. This is by no means, you know, first class stamp. Or this is a hand it to them in person, which is my kind of card, okay? All right, just getting rid of all those backings. And now just center this right over your ribbon and in the center of your card base, okay? Just give that a press down. Okay, beautiful. Some fun layouts there, beginning. Now, I do believe that we have our stage set. We have our background all made. Let's start to work on our focal points for this card. Okay, in your kit, you have a piece of watercolor paper. And my piece is missing, so I'm going to grab mine from tomorrow night's kit. It's missing because I already stamped mine and die cut it. But I at least want to do the stamping and the die cutting, or the stamping and embossing. So you have a piece of watercolor paper. Sorry about that interruption there. So this is a piece of watercolor paper, and this piece, it's 3 inches wide by 6, I think. Yeah, so it's 3 by 6. And find that piece. It's the heaviest piece of paper in your kit there. And let's go to our magical box that we keep handy. Give it a good rub with your embossing buddy. And we're going to stamp in Versamark. We're going to stamp 2 of the elongated eucalyptus images here, okay? So I need to give it a clean. You will too if you were stamping with me earlier on the first card. On the first video that ended, the part 1, we are now in part 2 for those of you who are joining late. I got booted off. And if that ever happens, just know that I'm going to do everything I can to come back, which I was scrambling to do. I am now that my stamp image is clean, I'm inking up in Versamark. Give it a nice juicy layer of ink there. Okay? And stamp your image once. Okay, give it a good, and because it's that watercolor paper, we want it really to penetrate those fibers. Hold it just a little longer than you would, say if you were just stamping on basic white. Same thing, I'm using that image again, same image. And on the upper half of your paper, same thing. Give a good impression on that. Let that ink really get into the paper there. All right, there's that. And we're going to emboss in white, okay? I love the way white embossing on white paper and then doing like an emboss resist, and that's exactly the technique we're gonna do here, okay? So I'm just covering my images with that white. Okay, give a flick so we don't get the excess, okay? Put the lid on. I always have a tendency to forget to put the lid on, and I turn the heat tool on and I blow embossing powder all over the place. Okay, here comes the noise. Sorry for that, but I'm gonna get my heat tool. I'm gonna kind of warm it up a little bit, and then I'm gonna come in and give it a good melt. Because we have 2 fairly large images, it's going to take a second here. Okay, I think that first one's done. And see, because my heat tool is hotter, it's going a lot faster on this second one. Okay, so I don't know if you could hear me yammering away during the heat tool. I was just saying, once it was hotter, it was amazing how much faster that second one went, okay? So you're embossing 2 of those flowers on watercolor paper, okay? And you're going to die cut those. And I have mine die cut ahead of time, which is a good thing since we've had a big run-in with being booted off the internet. So I have 2 ready here, and we're going to watercolor those, and we're going to watercolor just a little bit different than we have in the past. Not so much different, but just a little. So I'm actually going to bring in, if you have a palette, great, you can use that, or you can use the lids of your ink pads for that. And I'm going to bring in the re-inkers. And so you can put your re-inker, give it a shake before, And you can add it to your palette, you know, a couple drops there, or you could add it directly to your ink pad here if you wanted. But I'm going to do mine in a palette for now, just because I have that out and handy. And so you could do the same thing with your pool parties. So I have soft seafoam ink refill and pool party ink refill. And I'm just going to load that in there, a couple drops. I think I need just another drop or two of the seafoam. Okay. And the difference when watercoloring with ink refill versus ink pad is it's just a much more intense ink, okay? You know, it's just going to be a stronger color variation, if you know what I mean, Vern. Okay, so grab an aqua painter or a water painter and your 2 leaves, and we're just going to have some fun watercoloring these. And I'm going to start, oops, I have white ink in my aqua painter here. So we'll get the white ink out. And that's what, you know, a nice rag on hand to clean your brush. Also a rag or paper towel on hand to get rid of any smudges on your foil. This one, we're not smudging foil around so much, but okay, so I'm just going to come in here. And actually, I'm going to do a little loose watercoloring right now. And you can go over the whole thing. It doesn't matter. Just let, you know, just let the water and the paintbrush move around. And we're going to have some fun layering in color here. Okay? So don't worry about staying in the lines. That's half of the charm here, is to show that embossing off with that emboss resist. Now I'm going to come in and dab it with my paper towel or rag, whatever you might be using, okay? And I'm just gonna lift some of that color, let it dry for a bit. And when you start to add more layers of watercolor, what's fun is the layers that are dry kind of take things on a little bit different than if you had no watercolor there. So it's how we're kind of layering in our color, okay? So now I might follow the direction of the leaf, the image here, and add something a little bit darker in some of these areas with the soft seafoam. But see how this is soft seafoam, but it's much darker than soft seafoam. Okay, just layer some of that in. Okay, and let that dry. And you can also bring in a heat tool and heat some of that up. And you'll see that you'll have different variations depending on if you let it air dry or blot dry or heat tool. If you blot, you're gonna lose a lot of your color. If you use a heat tool, like you'll see here in just a second, we're getting some cool variation in here. Okay, so that was with the heat tool, which I think is kind of, you know, it's a little different, kind of fun. And now what I want to do is I'm going to switch colors. So clean your brush from soft seafoam and move into some pool party. And let's just kind of blend these through. And I got a little, quite a bit there, so I'm just going to blot a little of that out. But look how I blotted out. I'm still maintaining that soft seafoam that was in there, that was dry. Okay, got a little bit, I want this just a little less. I think I want a little more water and a little less. Let me bring my palette in here. Get a little bit more blue in there. I don't want it quite so, okay, so I'm just kind of adding here and there. Leaving some soft seafoam, but adding some of the blue, okay? And then you can kind of rinse, and if you want to move some of that a little bit and blend it, just have some fun. You can make it as dark or as soft or as, you know, medium, whatever you want. And I'm going to blot some of this out, just moving my palette out of the way. But look how cool that is. What's fun is the parts that were dried with the heat tool really stayed, you know, an intense darker green there. How do you decide where to put the accent of the darker color? Okay, sometimes I just start swooshing. And I'll tell you the reason why I just start swooshing in a second here. The other thing I do is if I don't start swooshing, I'm gonna follow. So you might not see it here on the embossed image because you can't quite see, but on this one you can. See how the artist has drawn some of these lines? I'm following their cue as to where I'm gonna layer some of that color in, okay? It's kind of like when they add in shade lines. That's a definite hint of where you could lay color. Now, when I say just swoosh color in, I say that because I had my costume teacher when I was at San Jose State. She was an amazing costume designer, and in her class, we were having to do some sketches for something, and she walked around the class and she was watching a sketch, and she goes, "Stop, everybody stop." She goes, "You guys are thinking with the analytical side of your brain when you're sitting there and looking at it and just kind of like sketch, 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 sketch." She goes, "Just draw the line that you see." And that allows the artistic side of your brain to take over. Just draw it. Just go for it. And so I've kind of always been with that mantra. Just swoosh it on. Just add the color. Just have some fun and let the artistic side of your brain take over. Sometimes if we overanalyze, then we're going to have, you know, an analytical composition, I guess. So there's my light, soft seafoam, just adding some in there. Again, here's just when we're gonna blot dry, and the difference between when we blot dry and when we heat tool dry, how cool it's gonna be. So I'm gonna go to the pool party. I'm gonna move my scratch paper over. So here's where those lines are. Let me see how intense this is. I'm gonna follow those lines. I'm gonna follow that swoosh line right in there, okay? And I'm gonna follow this one too. And there's one that she's drawn, and I say she because earlier we talked about the designer of this. So I'm just kind of adding them in where they feel good to me. All right, here comes my heat tool. I'm gonna heat set this so that it stays a more intense color. Now I will say, for this type of technique where you keep layering color in, you do need that watercolor paper. Let me take this piece of scratch out so that you can see it better. You do need the watercolor paper because you keep adding coats of water to it. It needs to be durable. It needs to be porous enough that it can take that. This is not going to work with Whisper White or Very Vanilla. So now I'm just going to add some more to just kind of break this up so that it's not quite so, I want to kind of bridge the gap. See how we've got kind of a huge gap right in here between dark and seafoam? Well, now we've lost it all. But when I blot, you'll see that it'll come back just a little bit. Okay, so if I blot that, okay. So just work in variations of, you know, color here where, you know, you might blot, you might air dry. Maybe you want to intensify some of this in areas, who knows. Just add a little water and let it move. Do some loose and give it a blot. And you can keep adding and subtracting and doing whatever, but here we have a couple different looks. The first one, I used more of the seafoam, and here's my second one. So it's just kind of fun to see what's gonna happen. But before we close this chapter, okay, let me dry this. I'm gonna blot this dry so that then I can add, I'm just gonna take some of my, this is the pool party, so I have some of the darker paint in here. And I'm gonna get it pretty juicy, and we're gonna flick these. We're gonna splatter them to give them some texture. And we'll let these dry while we turn to our dies and our stamp machine. So let those dry and grab your, we have a lot to cut. This is a 4 1/4 by 6 inch piece of paper. And we're gonna be doing some serious die cutting. So let me show you what you're gonna need. You're gonna need this piece, okay? And we're gonna pull some out that we haven't used just yet. You are going to need, well, let's just bring them all out because eventually we're gonna use them all. That's the one thing I try to do, you guys, is to use everything in the collection so that you get to see it firsthand. Okay, so this will be for our last project, but we're going to need 2 of these, 1 of these, and we're gonna need 2 of those, okay? So die cut those while you're waiting for your big eucalyptus leaves to dry. So let me run this through, but go ahead and move these pieces like way off to the side. Maybe let's do this. Nestle this piece way up in here, okay? Because you do need to get another one and 2 of these, just so you know. You have plenty of paper, but just kind of put them on there in a smart way. So I'm just going to my cutter here. I'll die cut these 3, and then I'll run the other 2 through a second time. Now, if you don't have ink refills, you can still totally watercolor your images by just squeezing the lids like we do normally. We do that a lot, right? I just wanted you to show you the difference in intensity of color when you use a refill. All right, so there's one of mine. And then I like to go through, for some reason this one likes to stick in some of them pop right out, but this one does like to hang on to its die. Okay, pull that out. Don't rip it. I usually have this hobby blade on hand. Years ago, Stampin' Up! Carried hobby blades, X-Acto knives. They called it a hobby blade. I miss it. This is a knockoff of that. The original one they had the Stampin' Up! Logo on it, but that's long gone. I don't know where it is. Okay, so let's get this popped out. So this big leaf here that I'm taking out of the die is going to be for our last card. So you can set that aside. Okay, sweep all your fun pieces aside. Now we're done with this one. We can put that one away. And we're going to cut these 2 more times. Okay, cut 2 more. And we'll be done with die cutting for this card. Whoops. My dies were overlapped. That wouldn't be good. All right. See, this one falls right out. It's great. This one really likes to hang on. Come on. All right, there's that. We'll set the die aside. My other one's still on the plate. Here we go. All right, so now we have our pieces that we need for the front of this card. Set that white aside, set the die aside, and let's just put this all together. So now we have this piece here, okay? And let's see, these should be dry. And look, all those little, where I speckled, they dried, but they kind of bled into the watercolor paper. You can see them, but they're not super strong. They're subtle, and I like that. Okay, so that's where these are going to be added into our card, like so. This one, they showed up a little bit more than the other one. So these are going to kind of run diagonally, and I think I might put my lighter one like that. I'm also going to trim these tails off, okay? So just take your scissors and trim that. It might show, it probably won't, but let's be sure that it doesn't. So these 2 are gonna start in here and they're gonna run diagonally, okay? All right, and then this one, is going to tuck under and work in there. Same thing here, okay? And then these two, now on my original, I actually cut these apart, but I have one kind of up and one kind of down. And then the last piece in your kit is this small Stylish Shapes banner. We're gonna stamp that and add that across the front. Okay, so to stamp this, we're gonna use Coastal Cabana. You could use Pool Party, but I wanted Coastal Cabana just because it's a little bit darker than Pool Party. And so I really wanted this to stand out and to hold to the color here on our watercolored leaves. So I'm using the image that says Sending Hugs. Okay, just ink up, tap, 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 twist, ink, tap, tap, tap. And I'm gonna stamp that right in the center of this banner die. Ta-da! Not too bad. Sometimes I go, oh, I hope it's straight. All right. It's a little crooked, but that's okay for right now. Okay, so now we can kind of see where this is going. Let's put all this together for real. So I'm just gonna kind of lift off these top layers and we'll leave these two leaves here, okay? So I'm gonna use a lot of this stem here to glue to and it's not right in the corner, it's kind of down just a little bit, okay? So the corner is right there. So you can see I'm kind of bringing this up and over into here a little bit. Okay, let's do the same thing with this one. And same drill, we're gonna kind of bring it down like so. Now these layers are glued because we've already got a lot of dimension in here. And I'm gonna add some glue to this. We decided the lighter one would be on top. So that's there. Just give it a good smash. And again, right in here, up in here. I'm gonna twist it just a little bit so that I see more of the white. And it looks a little busy with all that white and the white embossing, but when we bring the banner in, it helps to anchor it and, you know, direct the eye. Now I think I'm gonna put these two on last. I'm gonna put this next so that I can see where I'm going to need to put the last two leaves. Okay, so let's put this on with dimensionals, I should say. And now I am just layering this one to fit right inside. You're kind of looking at the banner that's in back, the Pool Party one, and it's just gonna kind of sit in the center of that, okay? Now I know where I need to layer this piece, okay? And so that one's gonna go up there, and I'm gonna do it a little bit on a diagonal. Oh, good, I see Linda found us again. I was telling them, Linda, that the cell tower here in Star is just, there's several of us that are going, what the heck is going on? I barely have one bar a lot of times on my phone. It just drops you. It kicks me off all the time. Drives me crazy. Now this next one, I'm not quite sure how I want to do it, or if I want to do it. I might just leave it. I think I'm just gonna leave it be, okay? I kind of want more of that to show. All right, and let's grab Wink of Stella and swoosh these leaves. Quick swoosh right in here where we're definitely gonna see that, down this one. Kind of under in there. Okay, pretty. I love the Wink of Stella on top of the watercolor. I think it is super, super pretty. Now, in your kit, you have some gems, they're iridescent rhinestones, and you have iridescent pearls. So the rhinestones are for this project, and you have 5 rhinestones in there, okay? You might have 2 large and 3 smalls, or you might have 2 smalls and 3 larges. I think most people have the 2 large and 3 smalls, but here we are. Mine are kind of cut apart. Okay, so let's just kind of prep those, get them out so we can put them on where we want them. And I'm just using my hobby blade since it's out. We're going to, I'm just gonna, so in my original, they're in completely different places than where I'm gonna put them on this card. So I had some on the green, so I think I'm gonna do some here. We'll do one right in there. So it just really depends. Each card's a little bit different, so you might layer it up a little bit different. So I'm gonna do a large there, okay? And just have some fun. I'm gonna do a large over here completely. I'm doing them in totally different places than I did on my original. And I'm not gonna push down hard. That's what Julie Beltrama, she goes, I just set them, so if I want to move them, I can. So I'm just setting that one because I don't know if I'm 100% positive that's where it's gonna go. And I think I'll do another, like right up in here, and we'll do another one down in here. Okay. Let me see if this one is better in this little nook. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so add your 5 rhinestones wherever you'd like, and that completes our 2-part card. So half of it is in part 1 video, and the other half is in the part 2 video. Sorry. So yes, this class is in a 2-part video. So there you have it. Watercoloring with ink refills and layering that color up and having some fun. So there's that one. I think this is pretty. I really, really, really love the colors in this card a lot. Now, moving on to our 3rd and final card. Oh, you guys, this is my favorite card. And I had to do this as a do-over. This is card front number 2 because I learned at the very beginning when I talked about using a tape runner when using this foil paper versus using the liquid glue, because the liquid glue, the lines showed through. So it was driving me nuts to see this like zigzag across the foil behind. So I lifted the piece off and started over. And that's when I'm like, oh, fingerprints make a difference as well. So, and what is that? Oh, that's part of the embossing design. So please be aware, use a tape runner when adhering this foil. Okay, so at the very beginning of our class today, which is in part 1, we cut this piece down, okay? So this is the seafoam on the back, and this piece is 2 7/8 inches wide. It's 2 7/8 inches by 4 1/4, and I can see I have some fingerprints on it. So I'm going to find a dry part of my rag here and try to remove those, okay? All right, that kind of worked, but not entirely. Just beware. It's like using, or like we said earlier, it's like touching, handling glossy photos. You want to be careful how you handle this paper. Okay, so here are the pieces. We're going to use all the leftover pieces. This is Sahara sand, a 1/4 sheet of Sahara sand. I should say this is a Sahara sand card base. And we have another piece of, this piece of white, it's basic white. It's 4 by 5 1/2. 4 by 5 1/2. And you'll see why in just a minute. So these are the pieces we have. This is the card we're going to do. And I just, I love this card. It is a kickstand card. You know, just a plain old card we do all the time. Why can't we just do a kickstand card all the time? So here's my kickstand. It's a different measurement, but you can see how it's so versatile. Here we go. And this time we're going to do a little bit different with our designer series paper and our inside and the inside. So this is the card we're going to do. We're going to start by cutting our card base, the right measurement. So all these fun, lovely pieces we will set to the side. Bring your trimmer in. Okay. This Sahara sand piece we're going to stamp and die cut. The card base here, if you are wondering, if you don't have a kit but you want to make the card, it is Sahara sand. It is 5.5 by 8.5, and it's scored at 4 1/4. Now, once it's scored at 4 1/4, I'm going to open up my card, and I am going to put my paper at 1 3/4. Okay, so I'm going to put this left edge at 1 3/4. I'm going to pull my the cutting blade so that the mark is right there in the score line. I'm going to pierce my paper and drag it down. So again, I'm at 1 3/4. Okay, at 1 3/4. Now I'm going to move this over, and I'm going to put my right edge at 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so my right edge is at 3/4 of an inch. Okay, same drill. Find the halfway mark in your cutting blade, that nice little tick mark there that they've given you. Pierce your paper and drag it down. Okay, and I can see I need to go just iota a little higher. All right, so there is my cut for my kickstand. Okay, and we need to do one more cut. Go back to your designer series paper. You have two that we haven't cut into at all, the copper and the Sahara sand. And this is the piece we're going to use, all right? So this Sahara sand, and we're actually going to use the back side of the paper. And you're thinking, what? We're not going to see that beautiful paper? Yes, we are, because that's the beauty of the kickstand layout. You get to use both sides of your designer series paper. Okay, so this piece of designer series paper, it is the really pretty Sahara sand on the front, and then it's like a linen texture on the back. We're going to cut this 5.5 inches wide. Okay, so let's trim this. I'm going to turn this. Okay, to 5.5 inches wide. Okay, so now you have this narrow little piece you could save, or you can, whatever you'd like to do with it. This piece here is going to, okay, so we're going to throw the kickstand upward. Now I have my two flaps. This is going to be the piece that bridges our card front together, okay? And so different from what we've done is we've usually left like a border all the way around. This time, this is going to go all the way across, okay? And it's going to have an 1/8 on the top and the bottom. Now, I don't know if you noticed, let me bring this up into full view. So when you cut, the integrity of the paper, let me see if it will come into focus. Can you see how this is not, that the top layer needs to kick out a little bit to the side, okay? It's having a tendency to kind of eke inward, and we don't want that, okay? You want it, see how it's eking inward because of the integrity, we've made that cut. You want to make sure that you hold it out there when you glue this piece on, okay? So I'm going to put my glue on this edge here so that I don't put too much and have it going off, okay? I know that it's going to go all the way to the edge, but I'm leaving room for the top so it doesn't show, okay? And I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm just going to come down this side. All right, and I'm not going to worry about any more glue than that. Okay, so this one's pretty straight, so I'm going to put this side on first, giving myself an even border at the top and the bottom here. Hopefully you can see that. Now, when I put this side on, I just want to make sure that I kind of kick this one out so that it's square and that it's not eking inward, okay? So the reason I only put glue right here on this edge was because this is where our pocket, we're going to tuck a pocket right in there, okay? Now here's my test. I can see that I need to still straighten that, okay? There we go. Okay, so there is the base to our card there. And now that that piece is in there, I'm going to go ahead and burnish this, because you don't want to burnish it when you have the foil on, okay? It will show if you do that. It will mar your foil. Okay, I'm going to get everything else ready, and I'm going to make sure my hands aren't sticky when I go to add this piece to our layer there. So set that aside, make sure it's gonna be somewhere where it doesn't get anything on it, okay? Okay, so let's kind of work on all of the card, and then we'll put that last little bit together, trying to keep the foil away from anything, keep it away. So let's do the inside of our card. And the inside of our card, we're gonna use the silver dollar and the watercolor for it. And we're going to stamp, oops, I don't have Sahara sand with me. Well, my original was done in Sahara sand, but I think for this one, I think we will do Pool Party. Okay, originally I stamped the inside with Sahara sand. This one is going to be Pool Party, because I forgot to bring Sahara sand with me. Okay, so let me give this stamp. It has Blushing Bride on it. We want to give it a good clean. And same thing with this one. Give it a good clean, tap, tap, tap. Okay, so Pool Party, Sahara sand, you can do whatever. And I'm just going to take this image and I'm just going to kind of do a little bit of stamping across the bottom. Okay, and I'm changing it so that it's never the same, that it's just kind of spunky and fun all across the bottom. Okay, there's that. Now with the watercolor image, I'm going to stamp off this color first and then come in here. And again, this is an abstract watercolor. Okay, it doesn't have to be filling it in exact. Just remember to stamp off. And so I am twisting so that I have a different look each time. Okay, so there's the inside of my card. And this one we're going to glue to the inside. Look, there's that pretty foil. That's the beauty of the kickstand. You get to show off both sides. Now I chose to do this a little different than normal. Normally we would do like 4 by 5 1/4. But since my top layer went all the way to the sides, I decided to do the same thing with my inside, okay? So the inside is going all the way to the edge and we're leaving an 1/8 on top and bottom. Again, this is white, so I'm not gonna use my liquid glue. I'm gonna use a tape runner, because we don't wanna see any of those glue lines. And I'm going to have my decor run across the bottom. You could have it run across the top, but give yourself an even border top and bottom here, okay? And so now what's fun is it mimics the front, okay? So kind of that continuity thread that I like to do. All right, so we have some stamping to do, okay? So we're going to stamp 3 pieces here, and then we're gonna do some big time stamping. So here we're gonna bring in the Much Love in Your New Life Together. So this is a pretty wedding card. It could also be for a new baby, because that changes and is a new life, right? So what I'm gonna do is I am going to ink up with, oh, I don't have early espresso here. Shoot, queen. Okay, well, we're supposed to be doing this in early espresso. You know why? Because I took it out because I've been working on the Ringed with Love for that class. Okay, bear with me. I'm gonna run go grab it because it needs the early espresso. Yes, I was designing for our stamp camp, and I thought, gotta put it all back. Okay, so now I'm gonna carefully ink up the Much Love. Okay. And did I get it all? I don't think I did. So I wanna, even if I catch some of that in your new life, I wanna make sure I really have that Much Love inked up. And now you can use your thumb or a towel or whatever, but we're just going to omit that In Your New Life Together and stamp the Much Love on this small piece of Pool Party, okay? Now we're going to cut out this much love using what I call the vase or the bowl die. So we're going to cut that out. So we'll need to cut that. So what's important is that you stamp first and then die cut. Because then that way you know exactly where you're framing that word. If you try and do to die cut and then position that, it might be a little tricky. So I just found it easier to do it this way. It turned out better. Okay, so there's my much love, and I cut mine off, but don't cut yours off. I'll make another one after. And we're gonna stamp it again, that exact same image, okay? And I am using the early espresso. Okay, now I'm gonna position this off to the one side, okay? So off to the one side, just a little bit, not a ton, but we're gonna shuffle this over to the side. And yes, the much love is not, oh, and I did a really bad job, but make yours straight. Part of the problem is I'm standing up and there's a phone in between us. So this is gonna come in here like so, okay? All right, and we're going to put that together with dimensionals. I'm gonna use a couple minis on this, if I can find them. You know, I start out so tidy, and then halfway into the first card, it's like a bomb went off. Okay, so I'm gonna do some minis down here on the bottom, like 3 of them. Okay, and we'll put this on and line it up right over the original, this much love that's partially off, okay? So that's gonna come in here like so. Okay, and yes, it is off to the side. And since we're working on dimensionals and whatnot, we might as well prep it. I'm gonna come in so I can get some quick coverage here and just throw in some right there. And I'll do one more right there, but I've got to double it because that's just what we got to do to make it work, right? To be the right level with the others, right? Yep, right. That makes it even there. Okay, so that's prepped and ready to go. Woohoo! We've got one more tag here to stamp and have that ready to go. And this one, I'm going to stamp "Today is a Day to Remember." Okay, and it's going to go right in the center there. Whew, I finally stamped straight. Okay, and this one is going to layer onto the circle that you have in your kit. And this circle is from the Stylish Shapes as well. So I'm gonna put a couple dimensionals right there. And I'm gonna do them towards the middle because I know I've got some foliage that I'm gonna be tucking in there when we go to assemble stuff. Okay, so this is just gonna sit kind of right center. Is it centered or did I lower it? No, I centered it. Wow, that's unusual for me. Okay, there it is. Okay, so there are those pieces. Those are ready to go. Now grab your quarter sheet of Sahara sand, and this is where we're gonna do some stamping and embossing and die cutting. And we are going to stamp a couple images here. We're going to stamp again the big leafy image. We're done with early espresso, so we'll take that out of the way. And I'm gonna close Pool Party so I don't stick my hand in it. And we're going to bring back in your embossing tools. Okay, so Versamark and your embossing buddy and your powder. And I'm just gonna do the whole thing, even though the whole thing's not getting it. But at least we'll know we have it where we need it. Okay, so the large eucalyptus image. Okay, it's already had Versamark on it, but let's get it tucked way up in the corner here. Seems to be where I like to put this image, is in the corner like that, because I feel like I'm, you know, getting it up in there and I'm not getting too much in the way of other things. Now the silver dollar eucalyptus, that had a different color ink on it. So let's clean it up. And we're gonna stamp this one time. Okay. And then we're gonna stamp the B. And so it's like, where can I get this? I'm just gonna squish this in here, nice and get it in here. Oops, I might have cut it off. Shoot, queen. Oops, I barely eked it in. Good. And the B. And we're gonna stamp the B a couple times, okay? So, oops, I just got freesia. Make sure your B is clean. So I have some room here. I'm gonna tuck a B there. And I think I'll tuck a B right in here. So we need 2 Bs and then 1 of each of the eucalyptus leaves, okay? So we're gonna dunk that in the white powder here. Flick off the excess. And we'll heat tool that. Here it comes. Okay, I think that'll do it. The noisy stuff, but the finished product is so pretty. All right, so this next technique that we're gonna do some watercoloring, but first we're going to milk paint. So this looks like milk paint. It looks like really watered down milk. Okay, squeeze your white ink pad so that you can collect some ink in the lid. And with your aqua painter, bring in your rag and let's get it cleaned up. This is a rag, compliments of Kayleen Murray. She says, these are great. These are just, you know, cloth diapers. And it's a good rag. Okay, there's that. So I've cleaned my brush. Now what I wanna do is I'm gonna come in here and I'm just loading up, let me get those out of the way. Just loading up some white ink with water into my aqua painter so that I can come in and paint the insides of these leaves, okay? And I realize I'm painting the wrong ones. These are all gonna need to be die cut. For time's sake, I have mine die cut ahead of time, okay? So I'm gonna color these in that are already. So you need your leaves and your bees, okay? Your 2 Bs. To be or not to be. This is 2 Bs. Okay, so let's watercolor these. All right, and so I'm just staying inside the leaves here. And I'm just adding this white right inside, okay? It's a little white ink. And the reason I'm adding the white ink in first is so that I can come in and layer color on top of that. And it'll give us a little bit of a truer color than if we just put fresh freesia or pool party on top. It'll just give it a nice lighter background, and it's a fun kind of a pale, kind of chalky look. It's just, you know, just another look, another thing to do. Okay, so just get a good layer of white in all of these leaves. Okay, there's that one. So there's my elongated uke. And here goes the silver dollars. I think I might need just a little bit more ink, so I'm gonna give another squeeze here. I need just a little bit more of an intense white. It's got a little thin. Yeah, that's much better. Giving me a little bit more coverage there. I want it just a little bit more opaque than what I had a second ago. This is a fun technique. It's a fun technique. I've not done it on Sahara sand. I usually do it on a really dark color, like blackberry or night of navy. But this is fun too. A little more summery. And since it's 104 degrees outside, yes. 'Tis warm, 'tis warm. Okay. Let that dry. Let's do the bees as well, especially their wings. Just a little bit. Okay. It is very pretty. It makes it so much more rich looking than just the paper. Yeah, I agree. And it's a completely different look, you know. Just kind of fun. There are so many techniques you can do with a water painter and inks. You know, are they true watercolor techniques? I don't know, but it's using water and it's using color, so I guess it kind of is. I'm going to bring in Pool Party back to the front here, and I'm going to bring in Fresh Freesia as well. And I think I will start with the Fresh Freesia because that's going to be on our piece, our larger piece here. And I think I'm going to bring in another piece of scratch paper so you guys can kind of see a little more clearly what I've got going. Sometimes when you get all this other stuff, it's hard to see what's going on. So there is that. Now clean your water painter, and I need to grab, I'm going to squeeze my pad, grab some ink, and I'm going to switch out colors. I'm going to take the white out of my aqua painter here, and I'm going to load with the Fresh Freesia. Now, right now, see this consistency? It's not wet enough. I need more water there. Sometimes I'll find when I watch people that they've not got it watery enough in their lid. And so you're more successful when you have a little bit more water. All right, now here, we're going to do the same thing. I'm just going to kind of come in to these areas, and I'm going to follow the direction of the designer, and I'm going to load more towards the bottom there. Just kind of swoosh this in. Let the artistic side of your brain work. And we're just going to put it on top of that white. It just gives us that white layer, gives us just a little bit more, it allows a little bit more of this purple to pop through. Okay. By the way, I really like this Fresh Freesia. It's a great purple. Okay. Add a little more depth in certain areas, and we can use the same technique we did just a minute ago and blot this, and then come back in and add more color, okay, to intensify it. Or we could just let it dry, air dry, and it'll get a fun look. I'm going to come in here and intensify the color. Oh, one of my dogs just let out the biggest, biggest moan. Okay. Again, just layer color in for that, you know. It adds interest. It, you know, as it dries, it starts to take on a slightly different look, okay? So there's that one. I'm going to set that aside. Now we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to trade out colors though. So clean your brush. And let's switch to Pool Party. Okay, give it a good squeeze. Hi, Pam. How's things going? All right, there's my, again, get this moving enough that you have a paint and that it's not too sticky. And just start to swoosh. I really like doing it to this piece here. It's just, it's quick, it's easy, and it's fun. Now, I may just let it puddle up where it, you know, naturally just did, kind of let it dry, and then go in and add a little bit more, but maybe not, I'm not going to paint the leaf as much. I'm just going to paint in towards the centers and see if I can build color that way. Okay, so I'm not painting the whole thing. and it just allows for the color to layer on and to develop that way. Okay, so I did a really pale, make sure this is pale, and I just did a little blue in their wings. Okay, just a teeny tiny little bit. Get this other bee here. Okay, maybe blot some of that. All right, now my stamping is done, it's painted. It is time to die cut. So you could let those dry, but we need to die cut some more pieces here, okay? So we're gonna die cut this piece. I love this die right here. You are gonna need 2 of those, okay? And you are going to need 1 of this one that we did the copper at the very beginning. So you need 2 and 1, okay? So this one, gonna need 2 of those, okay? And for time's sake, I have mine done. So just know that you'll need those pieces, die cut. You'll need to die cut all of your leaves and things if you haven't already. So I have mine. So these are the 2 that are the same. You need those. And that guy right there. Okay, so those are all of the elements we're going to be using to put all of this together. Now, we're going to do this piece of foil here. We've come to the time where we've held it off long enough. Again, I'm touching the edges because it is the foil. And again, I'm adding it to my card base with a tape runner. So whether you use Stamp and Seal, maybe you have some old snail runners still, or you have an ATG gun, and this is going to have just a narrow margin of, you're gonna have like a 1/16 edge on each side of Sahara sand, okay? So it's not quite the same size. And there you have it. Now, if you want to burnish that on, find the dry part of your rag or use a paper towel, okay? And burnish that on. Don't use your fingers, don't use your bone folder, you will mar your foil. And we can't have that. Okay, so we got this piece prepped and ready to go. So let's peel the backings and we'll start with that first. Okay. And don't laugh, I did cut my thingy off, but I'll fix it. All right, this is gonna have about a 1 inch, maybe a 3/4 inch. Okay, so it's just gonna kind of split that right there. Gonna kind of come across there. I'm gonna move there we go. It's so far away from me today. Okay, and this piece here, this is kind of one of those pieces that you're gonna go, wait, some of it's designed on this front kickstand and some of it's designed in back, okay? So let's bring in the original so you can see. So this piece here is going to glue onto this layer here, and part of it is going to be sticking onto there. So I need glue on the bottom half and minis on the top, okay? So I can do a mini here, that won't show, and I can do a mini here. So those won't show when the kickstand layer is lifted. And then we can do a little glue right here, just a little bit, because this is gonna go on the purple layer, okay? And so it's gonna just tuck a little bit under, right about there. And I'm not gonna put all of my weight down on this top layer just yet, or on the dimensionals here, because this layer, this lacy leaf, is going to tuck inside there. Now, this is where it's like danger, Will Robinson. If you put glue on here, and as you're going in here, you're gonna get glue on your foil, all right? I mean, that's how I am. I know I'm gonna get glue on it. So I'm gonna bring in my mini dimensionals here, because this is kind of a waxy background, and I'm gonna take my tape runner and carefully add just a little bit of snail to the back of that, okay? Now I know as I'm going in, I'm not gonna drip or get glue in there. That's gonna be a problem, but I can get it in there. Try not to let it touch, but eke it down in there, and that's where it wants to land, so that's where it's gonna go. My other one's a little higher, a little more rotated, but I'm gonna call it good, call it art, because I don't want to muck up my foil. That's the biggest thing. That's the whole thing that I learned while designing these, was to be careful with the foil. Now both of the bees need a dimensional, so I'm gonna do a mini on the back of each. Press those on, take the covers off, okay? And I'm gonna do one that's kind of flying. Well, my original had one embossed in the paper. This one doesn't. So I'm just gonna fly him right there. And I'm gonna fly another one kind of down right about here, but at a different angle. So that one's flying up. I want this one to be at a completely different angle so that they don't look the same. Okay, so there's my bees. And now the rest of our design is going to be on our next layer. Okay, so we finished adding the elements here. Now this layer, let me open this up. This piece here is designed to set right in the center so that when this is shut, you don't see it at all. And it's going to glue on. So I'm just gonna throw some snail on here because it's handy, dandy. Okay, set that in the center of your kickstand panel. Okay. And now, for some fun, let's go. Do you remember we cut this in half at the very, very beginning? So this is the second half of your linen thread. And we're gonna tie this in a bow. So I'm just gonna like 2 bunny ear this and tie a bow. Okay, kind of pull this, even it out. We're gonna tuck this such that it shows from the front, but it's actually on this second layer here. I thought that was kind of sneaky. And so it's gonna tuck right in there so that when this is shut, you see a little bit of it, but not all of it, okay? And so I think I'm just gonna put a glue dot on that to stick it in place. Okay, just put that glue dot right on there. And again, these are paper pumpkin glue dots. Why they look a little different. So now that glue dot is actually on the top, so I'll just stick it to the top of that. But there that is. I'll trim my ends here so that they're a little more even. Voila. And now this piece here is going to glue right inside, but I'm going to shut this because I want to see how my composition looks with, with my other leaf here. Okay, so I don't want it in too far. I want to make sure that it looks good, and that looks pretty good. So we'll glue that in place. And there's glue on these bottom leaves. Okay, this has glue. And this has glue, but I actually have dimensionals in some other areas. Right there is a dimensional. And I have dimensionals coming up the leaves here, okay? So we'll just put a couple like that. This one's actually gonna be glued as well. I know that seems weird, but it's because this portion is under and then this portion is out of the kickstand. And so it just gives us some dimension in a different way, okay? And what I mean by in a different way is not the entire thing isn't you know, lifted with dimensionals. Okay, so I'm just kind of tucking this. All right, and so I'm gonna I'm not gonna push everything down just yet because I do want to add I wanna add this element right in there. And so remember that has a dimensional there. And so now I can just catch it. Ha-ha, look at that. I can just catch that die cut by holding it with that dimensional. Now I can push the rest down. It's all good to go. Okay, so we have one last die cut that's going to tuck in on this other side here. Okay, it's just gonna kind of work itself right in here. And I think what I'm gonna do is trim a little bit off because it's gonna tuck underneath. Okay. Just glue a little. It doesn't have to have a ton of glue everywhere. And I'm just going to add that right, whoops, it's kind of sticking out. So I think I'm going to tuck it under the white, which is what I originally did. Okay, just get it in there. Okay, so it fits in the envelope. There it is. Okay, kind of pretty. Few last things to add to this though. First, we're going to add some bees. And again, I don't have my Sahara Sand bees ink pad for the bees, but clean that bee. And let's use Versamark, okay, since it is a tone on tone. We'll use Versamark, or you could use Sahara Sand. But what I did is I put my bees on last, so I have a couple flying over here on my original and one down here, so they're kind of flying like this. So I think I'll do the same thing. So I'm going to do a bee, and this one's going to come off the page. That's okay. But I have one there. And Versamark, it's not going to be as dark as the Sahara Sand, but it will show up. I could even emboss that in white. Oh, that would be really pretty. And I'm going to do another one right in there. Okay. Like I say, you could emboss those in white. That would be really pretty. And then one last one right over here. Okay. Now I'm not going to emboss those in white right now just because we have a few last little details to do on here. One, gotta have the wink, okay? Gotta wink these wings for sure. And I'm going to add that wink layer to my leaves and to this one. I really like the wink of Stella on the freesia. This just brings this, you know, image to life, I think. Okay? Especially if you swoosh it and don't worry about adding it to everything, you know. There's that. Now you have some pearls in your bag. These iridescent pearls. I really, really, really like these iridescent pearls. I mentioned before in another class that these are different from our basic pearls in that the color is an iridescent. They're white and shiny, whereas our others are a little bit more true to a pearl color, and they're more, you know, kind of a pearly, kind of an off-white color. All right, here is my Take Your Pick tool. I like the Take Your Pick tool. I like the putty end for these little pearls, okay? And so I'm just gonna kind of pick this up and add them all to the foil. But let me tell you, because we're adding them to the foil, now that we're a pro with the foil, where you put them down is where they're gonna stay. Because if you try moving them, it is gonna leave a mark on your foil and you're gonna be upset with yourself that you moved it. You're gonna put it right back down, if you know what I mean. So I think I'm just gonna tuck this one right there, okay? And like I say, where they land, that's where they need to go because it will mar your foil. So there you have it. And the very last thing I did is to the inside of this one, I added this last die cut right in here, and it's intended to have, since this is a wedding card or a new baby card, which I'll just say I could use in January, a new baby card for Nick and Jennifer. Ha ha! Yes, I'll go have a second grandbaby. Whoop whoop. Yep, grandbaby number 2 is due January 6th. So I could just tuck this here. And then like I say, if you have a little gift card there, remember we didn't glue this down all the way. We just glued the side. So you could tuck a gift card in there. And I think the leaf over top would be really pretty. So there you have it. There is our kickstand card and our third card for today. Just a reminder, if you're coming on late and you want to watch the beginning, it's a 2-part video today because the internet bumped me off. I lost connection and I had to jump back on. I apologize for that. Totally out of my control. But just know I'll always come back as quick as I can. There was our second card, playing with layering and watercolors. And there's our first card where we worked on getting familiar with the stamps and creating a fun composition with the elements that they have so awesomely designed for us. Thank you for being here. Sorry for the delay again, but have a happy day. Do come back tomorrow where we'll be live on Zoom and we'll make these cards again and you can make them together. If you started, you can finish during that class. Just come by and chat. Talk to you then. See ya. Bye-bye.